I hope that is your prayer this morning, for God to have God's way in you. Because I believe that's the way that we are going to find a kind of happiness that transcends the world. Whenever you go into any Unity Church throughout America or the world, they will be different. They will have the same teachings, but their style will be different, which will reflect the culture that they live in. But one thing will be constant. At some point in that service, someplace, they are going to have everybody say together what we call the statement of faith. Now, we've already done it, but we're going to do it again, just so you know for sure what I'm talking about. This is it. Will you say it with me together? There is only one presence and one power, active in the universe and in my life, God, the omnipotence. Beautiful. And you've probably heard it every Sunday if you've been coming here or you've gone to Unity churches everywhere, but there's a really important question. What does it mean? It's a beautiful thing to say. You might think that it means, at least on the global level, that regardless of whatever religion you came from, regardless of what country you live in, regardless of whatever your spiritual path is, regardless of whatever scripture you hold sacred, it has all been created by one divine holy presence in this world, a presence we call God, that is manifesting itself in different countries, different cultures, different languages, different scriptures. And that is wonderful. That's a gift that unity can bring to the world in consciousness. That's a gift that holds within it a promise of peace between those people who are fighting over religion. That you can say, yes, you have a different path up the mountain, and there's only one God that we're all reaching for. That's beautiful. And I think that embedded in this statement is another kind of meaning, one that can transform our lives, and that's the personal meaning. That's the meaning that says no matter what you are facing in your life, no matter what kind of challenges you are having, no matter what kind of difficulties are surrounding you in any moment at any time, there is a power that is within you that is greater than all of those things, and that is the only real power that is going on in your life. Now that is powerful, and that is what we believe true. And that's difficult to get a handle on. It's very difficult. I believe that people who think that they are joining a spiritual community because as soon as they do, they aren't going to have any problems anymore. We call that delusional. I don't believe that the spiritual path is a promise of freedom from the difficulties and the challenges that we have to express in this world experience. Jesus talked about it in the Gospel of Matthew. He said, this is what God does. He gives us his best, the sun to warm and the rain to nourish, to everyone, regardless. The good and the bad, the nice and the nasty. This is from the Message version of the Bible. I like it because it really tells it just like it is. You're nudging your neighbor. Yeah, see, even you. Basically what this is saying is that life is happening to everybody. We are all going to experience loss. We are all going to have challenges in our life. That is part of this experience that we're having because we're living in this world. The real promise is that if we can understand the source of real happiness and touch into that power, we are immune from that. The Apostle Paul found out about it, and he wrote about it in his church to the church in Philippi. He said, I found the recipe for being happy. Okay, good. Now I want you to pay attention. Here's the recipe for being happy. Whether full or hungry, hands full or hands empty, whatever I have, wherever I am, I can make it through anything in the one who makes me who I am. Wow. So what he's saying is, here's the recipe. No matter what, no matter whether you've lost your job, no matter whether your paycheck is empty, your bank account is empty, your relationships are on the rocks, you're going to be evicted soon, no matter whether your hands are full or your hands are empty, he has found a recipe for happiness, which is knowing that he is rooted in the one who has formed him and in the one who he has life. Now, that's a recipe. Do you want that recipe? Would you like to live like that? Would you like to live so that no matter what is going on, you are grounded in a deep and profound happiness? It doesn't mean that we're going to ignore the problems. It doesn't mean that we don't care about the issues, that we do and we get involved. But it means that our happiness is profound and beyond and above all those things. Now, is that something that you are interested in? I hope so. Because you know why? The world needs you. The world needs you. We have too many people in this planet already who are thinking small. We have too many people already on this planet who are living small and in the problems and in all the ugliness of life. And we need spiritual giants who will rise above those things and live in joy and show the world how to do that. The Course in Miracles says that we claim this power when we become vigilant only for God and His kingdom. Important word is only. When we become vigilant, in other words, we're paying attention to only God and the kingdom. Here, this is it. This is it. When this is what we're paying attention to. Now, we have a tendency to not do that. And that's what we sometimes call giving our power away. We say, no, I'm not going to pay attention to this. I'm going to pay attention to something else. And the Course in Miracles says, when you give power, as the laws of this world would interpret giving, you give, you lose. Oh. Of course, the truth is we can never lose that source of power within us. It's always in us. But the also truth is we can give away that connection. And we give it away to people all the time. Now, some of the ways that we do it, and these may resonate with some of you, we give it away with our anger. We give it away with our blame. We give it away with unforgiveness. We give it away with resentment. We're giving our power away with fear and worry and attachment. Every time we are participating in these, and this is only a partial list of these things, we are not paying attention to the kingdom. We're not paying attention to that source, and instead we're giving attention to the other things. You understand? This is a problem that we face as human beings, and it's kind of the crux of everything. We keep giving our peace away to that outside place in the world, to those outside people. We get lost in unforgiveness. Unforgiveness now, for me, is a really difficult thing to understand. Why would people want to keep holding and reliving a negative event in their life? Why would we want to keep saying, I'm not going to forget that pain you caused. I'm not going to forget that anguish. I am not going to forget. Well, why? We need to let that go because that is stealing our happiness. That is stealing. We have given our power to that. One of the greatest examples of all these things, I believe, is found in a very well-known Bible story, and I'm going to invite you to listen to it, and then we're going to talk about it. It's a little bit different maybe than we thought. It's found in the Gospel of Matthew. This is about a time when the disciples and Jesus were roaming around the world, and it says that meanwhile the boat was far out to sea. That's the boat the disciples were on. When the wind came up against them and they were battered by the waves, and about 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came towards them walking on the water. And they were scared out of their wits. A ghost, they said, crying in terror. But Jesus was quick to comfort them. Courage, it's me, don't be afraid. And Peter, suddenly bold, said, Master, if it's really you, call me to come out to you on the water. And Jesus said, come ahead. Jumping out of the boat, Peter walked on the water. I would really love it if it would just end right there. That'd be a great promise, wouldn't it? We just, okay, great, here's all we have to do. But then, oh my God. But when he, Peter, looked down at the waves churning beneath his feet, he lost his nerve and he started to sink. And he cried, Master, save me. And Jesus didn't hesitate. He reached down and grabbed his hand. And then he said, faint-hearted, what happened to you? I've heard that a lot. I love this story. In the church that I grew up in, the way it was interpreted to me was that Jesus is the one with all the power to walk on the water. What we understand metaphysically in this spiritual community is that Jesus and that consciousness that Jesus had represents that God ideal, that perfect vision of godliness, of the way to live, of the absolute manifestation of love and truth. And what was happening in that story is that Peter sees that. He had, what we're talking about at Course in Miracles, that vigilance upon the idea of God and the kingdom. He saw it, and it was there. And because he did, he could walk on this churning water. And the thing I really like about the story is he's walking, and it does not say in there that as he stepped out of the boat, the water turned into green grass with sheep and goats and all sorts of little white lilies, and he walked. It doesn't. He's still walking on the churning water. I love that, because what this says is as we make that journey, we make that commitment, we see what we want to be, we see that godness that we want to be inside, and we take a step for that, it does not mean that we are not going to be walking on the churning waters anymore. There's still going to be the churning waters. There's still going to be the relationships that are falling apart. We're still going to experience loss. We're still going to have problems with our bank account maybe. We're still going to have job issues. We're still going to be around people who are just really irritating the socks off of us. They're still going to be churning around in the water, but if our eye is on the prize, we are going to walk above and through it all. And see, that's what the world needs. There are too many in the world who are focusing on the swirling waters. And all they see is all of those issues. But if we keep our eye on the prize, on that Christ place, then we don't. And the first thing that happened is when Peter looked down, he got afraid. It says he lost his nerve. He gave his power to the churning water. And the next thing you know, he started to sink in it. And don't miss the part that he says, as soon as he says, God help me, and he says, Jesus didn't hesitate, he was right there. See, we never have to, when we sang this earlier song, God of the second chances, it's really not exactly true. It should be God of the third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh and however many it takes chances. But as any time we are calling out to say, I need help, please help me, lift me back up, let me focus here, it happens. And it does. See, that's the simple spiritual truth. And I hope you can see it. How do we come back then to that power? Maybe if we're sinking back in that power. Number one, we have to be aware of the power within us. And but by aware, I mean, it's not just like, when church is over, go, yeah, I know, presence of God's in me. Okay, big deal. Okay. Being aware of it is not knowing it here. It's knowing it here. It's knowing it in your whole body. It's feeling it and being in conversation with it. And then being aware of when and where we are giving our power away. And the way we know that is simply check out our feelings. Are we feeling angry? Are we feeling afraid? Are we feeling nervous? Are we feeling resentful? Are we still living in unforgiveness? If those things are happening, we have given our power away. We need to come back. We need to bring it back. Otherwise, we're not going to know that kind of happiness Paul is talking about. Second step, set an intention to stop giving our power away. It's one thing to really know, yeah, I really give my power away. But then we sort of like, sometimes that's just the way we live. And besides that, it's really, really, really cool to just blame everybody. Yeah? Nothing is more really juicy than to have righteous indignation. That's where you get to be mean, hateful, nasty, mean, and critical, and still be Christian. We love that. So this is an opportunity to give that up whenever we're feeling those kind of things. And then to live from that power within ourselves. And here's an affirmation you can make. This is something I invite you to say for yourself all the time. I take complete control over my happiness. Now, I'm not taking complete control over the situations that are going on. I'm doing my best in those situations, but I'm not in control of them, people, places, or things. But I am in control of my happiness. Can you claim this truth? Will you say it with me together? I am in complete control of my happiness. Okay. I didn't sense a lot of conviction. I know it would be much better if so-and-so was in charge of your happiness, or if things were different, you could be happy. You're in charge. Can you be convicted? Let's try it. With conviction. I take complete control over my happiness. Good. That's much better. Now, here's the clicker. I am vigilant for God and God's kingdom within me. Vigilant, meaning I'm paying attention to this and not those things. Let's say it together. I am vigilant for God and God's kingdom within me. The last thing I want to share with you is related to a story in my own life. About 30 years ago, I was part of a very first group of people who started all of those wonderful 12-step meetings on the beach in Waikiki. We started the very first one. It was on a Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was called a promises meeting. And in the 12-step community, there is a page that is written in the handbook for people in recovery called The Promises. And we read those things because they basically said, if you do this good work, if you do it a day at a time, do what you're told and follow these steps, you will have these great things in your life. And for a lot of people, we live for that because we weren't in it at that moment, but it was a promise. Now, I want to share a promise with you from a wonderful man named Jaimaran V. He is a Hindu, and he is the founder of the Hinduism.com website. He's written several books, and this last bit of promises is a summation that he gives from the Bhagavad Gita on one of the chapters. And it's filled with promises, and those promises are all related to this idea of putting God first here and detaching from the world. And if you would do that, if you can make that commitment to be vigilant about the kingdom of God within you, these are the promises that I believe can be yours. With the stability of the mind comes undisturbed peace and unending calm. All sorrow cease to bother the person who has become stable in mind, as his mind does not crave any more of anything, accepts every condition of life equally as divine providence, lives through all experiences with the same attitude, and becomes immune to the play of circumstances. He goes beyond the sense of duality and overcomes jealousy. He lifts the veil of illusion covering his mind and sees with his inner eyes the beauty and the splendor of his self deep within and beyond. He becomes united with the infinite consciousness, sees the self in all beings, and all beings in himself. Does that sound like a beautiful way to live? Here's the affirmation. One more time. Let's say it together. I am vigilant for God and God's kingdom within me. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes with me for just a moment. I'm going to invite you in this meditation to imagine that you are in that boat, and there is an invitation from the consciousness of the Christ that says, come and walk on the water with me. There is nothing real to be afraid of if we are vigilant about the kingdom of God within us. We breathe in that peace. We reach out our hand and we feel that amazing strength and power that is keeping us afloat, that is pulling us to greater and greater ways of being. Feel that now within you as we come to God together in the sacred and holy silence.